So I'm joined now by Jack Ross, whose brother has Down syndrome. He's supporting the bill. I've also got Florence, who has the condition and is the women's captain of the Down syndrome swimming GB team. So welcome. Thank you so much for coming in and joining me.
Okay.
So, Jack, can you start by telling me a bit about this bill and talk me through what is the reason for it and the benefits within it?
So the bill's come into place really to help provide local authorities guidelines to help them provide support to people with Down syndrome, to ensure they have the right opportunities and also the help they need to succeed in life, to have quality of outcomes, particularly in education and healthcare. So it's looking really to ensure that people with Down syndrome have the right support they need to get into, say, mainstream education, so they can get a better education, get qualifications, again, stay in mainstream school where they can mix with people without Down syndrome too, so they can learn important social skills and then hopefully go on to lead a very good life from there after they have a good starting. And in regards to healthcare, it's to help try and ensure there's a equality of outcomes when you have healthcare. So currently, people with Down syndrome have a higher mortality rate when they go into hospital. We're seeing atrocious cases such as back in 2016, when one man with Down syndrome was left for 20 days without food because the hospital didn't know how to feed him. And so hopefully this bill will help include people with Down syndrome, help integrate them more into society so we don't see atrocious cases like that happening again.
That's awful, that case that you talked of. That just sounds like neglect on all levels in any case. That's horrendous.
And this is the sad thing, is you don't see any prosecutions when it comes to this. If the man didn't have Down syndrome, you might have seen a bit more action. But unfortunately, I guess society just accepts that that's OK, which is abhorrent, really. And hopefully this bill is in place to actually stand up for the laws which already exist and actually implement them and make sure they are implemented across the country.
Well, that's absolutely right. Now, Florence, you're also supporting the bill. How important is this to you?
For me, because it helps me my independent life in my house. At the moment, I live in supported living, and it helps me a lot.
Yeah.
For example, if my parents are dead, I have to do all the things by myself, and I have to think about that.
Yeah, I think that's the thing as parents, because I have two children, you worry that if you're not there, how will that person cope? And in the case of something, a condition like Down syndrome, you're going to be worrying that this person won't be cared for. And the bill does this, does it? In what way does it make sure that people are cared for?
So it's setting out guidelines. So the bill actually is there to remind local authorities what powers they already have, because there's so much in place to help people. This country has all the right tools in place, the right legislation has been passed previously, but either through ignorance or lack of awareness, people aren't implementing it, such as the NHS or such as in schools. So what this bill does is it gets the Secretary of State to set out guidelines for local authorities so they know exactly what they need to do to help people with Down syndrome. Because Down syndrome is a specific learning disability in itself that needs a specific approach. It's not sort of a one-brush-fits-all approach for learning disability. So that's why there's a Down syndrome bill which focuses specifically on people with Down syndrome to help them as their own group.
OK. And now, Florence, talk to me, because I want to know about you and the condition and how it affects you.
Yeah, so basically I was born in Hong Kong, and then my mum didn't notice I was Down syndrome like 2 days after I was born, because the doctor thought he knows that I got Downs, but my parents didn't know after 2 days, and the doctor told my parents that I've got Down syndrome.
OK, and for you, how does it affect you in your daily life?
It doesn't help me. It doesn't affect me at all.
Yeah, because
if you think about it, we're all special. Even you guys, even people with disability, we all have the same abilities. Instead of I do things by myself, and mainstream people do the same thing. It doesn't matter about disability. Everyone is the same as disability people.
I think some people are better. I mean, you can swim, right?
I'm
just learning to do that. Talk to me about getting involved in swimming in Team GB.
So I first got into swimming 10 years ago. That's when I first compete. And then I'm still competing since. And instead of putting on weight, I'm trying to lose my weight and try and do my best.
You're tiny. You're going to lose weight. Seriously, look at you, you're tiny. And with swimming, what's your best stroke? And
I do all different types of strokes.
Yeah.
But I don't do breaststroking competitions. I do mainly front crawl, back crawl, and butterfly in competitions.
God, butterfly stroke. I don't know how you manage it. I couldn't. Could you swim?
Not as well as Florence. Florence was telling me earlier she has 3 Olympic medals, I believe,
Yes.
Florence.
So I have gold, silver and bronze medal in the last championships. So the gold and silver all in the team relays, and the bronze medal is done in a distance of 100-metre butterfly.
And when did you realise that you had a skill for swimming?
So when I swam since when I was a child. So my dad was putting me in the pool in a holiday home.
Yeah, they tried that with me. I almost drowned.
and then that was in France at the time, and I started doing one bit of the pool, and my dad didn't notice it, and then I continued swimming since then.
It's incredible, isn't it? And so now you're actually swimming and competing in it, which is it's quite a challenge. It's quite a challenge. Competing in anything, actually, is a challenge, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah. Now your brother has a condition of Down syndrome. What's that been like growing up with him?
I think interesting. Certainly, funny enough, he's actually provided me with more opportunities, I think, him being there. I wouldn't be on the GBNews if I didn't have a younger brother. But certainly he's an inspiration in himself. He competes for the South East Hampshire Special Olympics team too and does really well there. He cycles, he's independent, and really it's so exciting that this bill's in place because he's 17 and he's looking now potentially at getting a job in the future or going into university. And I think this is where the bill's great because it's going to help people like my brother go and have the support they really need. Because a lot of people in our society who are left behind, and I think especially with people with Down syndrome, where they might not have the confidence to speak up on their own or might be sort of unaware of what they're missing out on, this bill is great in actually ensuring and holding local authorities to account and making sure they give them the help that they need. Again, because my brother has left school with GCSEs, he's currently in college, and hopefully a bright future. I think he wants to be a photographer, so we'll see.
I wanted to ask, how do you feel when people talk about the condition of Down syndrome, as when they talk about, the actual genetic side of it? So, people who could potentially, if you've got Downs, you have the opportunity to either abort the child. What do you feel when you hear that? Do you think that's a...
Well, again, it's interesting because the bill doesn't have anything to do with abortion. I think for me personally, it's quite upsetting, and I would really encourage people just to have a better education on what it is to live with someone with Down syndrome. Florence, for example, is an absolute inspiration. She holds down 5 jobs. I can barely hold down one. She lives independently. It's just absolute. And even on the tube earlier, Florence was great. I got completely lost. I went to King's Cross instead of the station near here, and Florence actually helped me navigate the tube because I had no idea. And so I'd really tell people if you're pregnant with a child with Down syndrome, I'd say actually educate yourself on what a fulfilling life people with Down syndrome can have. They can have a job. They can live till they're 60 plus. And that's the key thing, just education about it.
Yeah, of course. And this bill is obviously instrumental in making sure that people with the condition of Down syndrome are protected throughout their lives and even after their parents pass away, which I think is so important, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it changes the mindset as well. So, again, the key of having people with Down syndrome in mainstream education is it integrates them more into society because their classmates are going to be the future employers. They're going to be the future NHS staff. And actually, it starts breaking down the boundaries between people. Again, a key element of the bill is stopping the segregation of people with Down syndrome, stopping people think, let's just stick them in a special school rather than giving them a chance to prove themselves in education. And a lot of time people are pleasantly surprised by people with Down syndrome. Again, you have people such as Florence. I believe there's a lady in the NHS who has the highest non-contamination rate when it comes to washing surgical equipment who has Down syndrome. But she goes in, she's been showed how to do it, and she does it perfect every time. Well, everyone else is looking at their watch thinking, I want to go home, make a cup of tea or whatever. She cracks on, does the job, and goes home. And I actually found out something today which is quite upsetting. Currently, there's actually schemes in place in this country where people with Down syndrome or learning disabilities have to pay to work. So in garden centres, in libraries, they have to pay to go and do that, and it's seen as a form of adult like childcare, essentially, which is completely patronising and wrong. And again, it's absolutely abhorrent that that's in place. And hopefully this bill will actually help shift the mindset of employers where, no, someone shouldn't have to pay to it. If they're coming to do a job, they've come to do the job well and they deserve a fair pay for doing that.
Well, they should be paid for a job just like anybody else, actually, if I'm totally honest. Florence, when's your next competition then? Are you competing soon?
Yes, I'm competing in next year in November time. So I need to go into more swimming competitions until... But the problem there is because of COVID-19.
Yeah.
But if you think about it, I don't know if it will go ahead or not.
Well, let's hope. I mean, let's hope that Omicron or whatever it's called is slightly weaker and more transmissible, and in the end that we're all fine. I think we'll be okay.
So.
I think we'll be okay. Thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for joining me, both of you. Thank you.
Thank you for having us on.
Thank you for coming in.